This 2023 NASCAR Win Totals recap edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Bet Rivers. Claim your risk-free bet up to $500 over on sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betrivers. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betrivers. We're brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month and start making smarter bets today.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you ask me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. It is, of course, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. Already in the chat, we have picked up one Justin, Mark, or Miranda, depending on who's, but I'm pretty sure it's Justin because Miranda does not use that many L's in her hello, gents. So what's up, Justin? Cody, what's up, buddy? It's a long time no see. I feel like I haven't seen you in few hours.
It's been a little while, but not too long. Any amount of time, too long. Hello, Old Fashioned Football. We appreciate you. If you're done listening to this, make sure you check them out. They'll probably be live actually this evening here before the Thursday night game, as they usually are. Starts at questions, so definitely check them out. Love them. Oh man, glad to be back. Glad to be talking more about NASCAR. Why not, Rod? Why not? The days are getting shorter. We're getting closer, and here we are.
Is there a car number that we can? No, I'm just kidding. We won't do that. We won't do that to you.
I think that one guy really wants us to.
I think he does. I think everybody wants to be pegged to as everybody in the Discord. So make sure when you're pegging everyone in Discord, everyone knows about it. So, all right. So today we are going to be discussing some of the win totals that we had from 2023. And don't worry, we will talk through some strategy as we approach the 2024 win totals. So consider this sort of a look back, but also a researching opportunity for us to be able to get better acquainted with what we think is going to happen in the 2024 season. So again, this isn't necessarily just a standard recap edition. We're going to definitely use this to look forward to what to expect in 2024 as we start to get more odds coming up slowly. Justin said, saw a meme he did not understand. So is Max Verstappen a real racer and is he fast? Because speed would explain that meme. Max Verstappen, he's an AI racer.
Yeah, he's an F1 driver. So check out the F1 Gambling Podcast. But yeah, he won 19 of 23 races this season or something like that. So yeah, he's sort of fast, I guess you could say.
Their season's over, and he's still going to win this weekend. It doesn't matter that they're not going to race.
He's already won all of the races next season.
Yeah, they've already just given him all of the checkered flags. They've given him all of his medals and all of his trophies for next season, and they're pretty much just going to call it quits. So they're just going to name him the 4th-time champion. That's all there is to it. But
yeah. He says all makes sense now. So glad we solved that crisis.
Glad we cleared that one up for you. But again, yeah, so let's use this as a tool to kind of go over what we were thinking last season when it came to win totals. Cody's got actually his article too, which we're going to go over as well. Something he wrote, which basically ran down everything we talked about on the show and just where we were at, where our heads were at. And then, is it sustainable? What kind of win totals would we be looking for this season if we were the bookmakers? where would we feel comfortable betting on these guys at what win total. So when they do come out and we see the prices, we can decide whether or not we were right, wrong, or indifferent. So sound like a good plan to you, Cody?
Sounds like a great plan to me. I did just post it in the Discord in case you want to follow along and review it. But I mean, this is a great chance again. There's no races for us to bet on right now, right? And we've talked about some of the futures that are out there, and we've got some more futures coming up that are going to be out there, and we're going to have win totals soon, I would imagine. We'll talk about all that. But going back and looking at things and where expectations were, and I mean, one of these guys we talked, brought up his win total. You're like, really? And it was like, yeah. And then it was like, oh, yeah, this is what he did in 2022. That's why it was that way, right? And so looking back at what the expectation were, where they ended up falling, what that might translate to in the future, how we think it's going to continue to go forward. One guy on this list we're going to talk about, biggest bet of my life was on his under this past season. If it's the same number this year or lower, his biggest bet of my life might be the over on it because it's going to be a different scenario, going to be a different situation. So, but I do think that going back and looking back at these there's a lot you can pick up from it and why it was what it was. And going through this article, we can even look at my explanation of why I thought one way or the other and what situations we were looking at, because it's a long time ago since last offseason. We've had 38 races this season if you include the Clash and the All-Star race and lots of things happening and all of that. So yeah, I do think it is good to go back. It's important to go back and see what it was. And then I'm excited. I haven't seen any win totals yet for this coming season, but as soon as they do come out, we'll be talking about them, of course. But yeah, excited to dig into those when we do get the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely have to jump on those as soon as we get the chance. Also want to plug yesterday's episode. If you didn't get a chance to listen to yesterday's episode, please do. We had Seth Wilcock on from In Between Media. Just a splendid. And we're going to have more guests as the off season progresses, but definitely want to give a huge shout out to Seth for joining the show. Please go support those guys at In Between Media. So many great people, so many good content creators out there to support. So please go do that. Love me some Seth Wilcock.
That was a great conversation, and there was stuff to talk about, right? There was news, there's the David Red stuff, how that's going to play into the betting of the Daytona 500, right? Because I'm going to bet on David Reagan now. But yeah, I talked about the TV deal, talked about what Seth has going on and all of that. So that is pretty awesome. Nick Fortune wants to know what sport. Oops, we clicked at the same time again. What sportsbook can you find win totals? Not up yet. We're looking back at last year's win totals. We're going to go through those, see how they panned out, where we were kind of at on them. So hoping soon, sportsbooks, listen up. But and then Old Fashioned Football said, met Seth at Expo. Bummed I missed this episode. I'll go back and check it out. Yeah, just yesterday's episode. It's evergreen through the off season pretty much. So go check it out. Seth is a great dude. Love everything he's got going on. So we appreciate him jumping on with us.
Indeed. All right, let's go over some odds here.
I did have one piece of news. I don't know if you saw it. Did you see the Denny Hamlin news? Right.
No, I've been under a rock the last few hours. What?
Well, we know that Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin both had some surgery this offseason. Denny's done it before, right? Not a big deal. It kind of just, it's an expected thing, routine, cleaning up stuff in the offseason. But Denny Hamlin says his recovery from his shoulder surgery could take longer than anticipated, and it might impact his availability for February 4th, the Clash at the Coliseum. So potential that we don't have Denny Hamlin in the 11 car at the Clash at the Coliseum. In the big picture of the season, not a huge deal, right? Obviously, it's an exhibition race, and it doesn't matter for for the points or anything like that. But behind the wheel, having fun, whatever. I don't think he really likes that race, so might be an excuse for him to get out of it. But be interested to see, who might fill in for him. I would imagine they would go to their Star Xfinity Series lineup that we don't know anything about yet for whatever reason. Why they haven't announced that Sheldon Creed's going to be one of those drivers. Maybe Sheldon Creed will be in the 11 car. Who knows? But yeah, so just not really major news. I'm sure he'll be fine for Daytona, hopefully, because that would be a major story for sure. But yeah, his surgery, he had kind of hinted throughout the season on Actions Detrimental, his podcast, that he was going to have like a more major one than he's had in previous seasons. So must have had some big thing going on with the shoulder, but be interesting to keep an eye on because, it would be weird to see someone else in that 11 car. Denny's been in the 11 car since I think he started splitting that ride in 2003, I think, him and Jason Leffler, and it's been Denny ever since. So be something to watch for sure.
Ow, my shoulder. Ow. I can't do the clash. My shoulder
You
hurts.
can drive with the other hand, right? You don't need both hands, do you?
I
There's
drive
not much
one-handed.
shifting. They're not going that fast, right? It's no big deal.
I drive one-handed. Listen, man, what are we doing here? They're professional drivers. If I can drive down the freeway with one hand, these guys can drive around with one hand. All they're doing is going like, no, I'm just kidding, guys. I love you to death. Don't come at me. You know.
Nick Fortune says, as my new BFF, Cody, I will be bugging you for those win totals. Hey, man, as soon as we see them, I will alert you. Don't worry. Old Fashioned Football says, J Mark enters the track over under 0.5 wins. What would you take? Unfortunately, Justin, I have seen people from Iowa drive before. Definitely going to go with the under. And head-to-head win matchup, who would you take? Me, J Mark, or Nick Fortune? The battle of Iowa drivers. Sorry, Nick, but I got to side with Justin on this one.
I got to go with Justin as well. And on a super speedway, Justin, I'll give you at least a win. If Danica Patrick's boyfriend can do it, so can you.
Did you see?
I did, but I've got to come back and talk about that in a second. Here we go. Let me tell you first about Bet Rivers. We're brought to you by Bet Rivers. Bet Rivers is available in over 14 states plus Ontario, Canada. Bet Rivers has some of the best live betting markets in the space. Their betting menu is second to none, including a ton of props. Plus, depositing and withdrawing is super easy on Bet Rivers. My Bet Rivers play of the day happens tonight. If you're watching this on Thursday night or you're listening to it on Thursday, give me Dak Prescott over a half an interception, -107. I know he's only thrown 6 interceptions this season, but Dak Prescott against what formerly known as the Legion of Boom. I don't know. Give me Dak Prescott to throw an interception. I think he's going to get happy feet. I think he's going to throw at least one. So I'll take the over half an interception at -107 over on Bet Rivers. Or you can sign up using our link to get a risk-free bet up to $500. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betrivers. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betrivers. Problem gambling? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Yeah, I most certainly did see the roast, and I commented, roasting is a lost art form. People take themselves so damn seriously anymore that they can't take people making fun of them.
That clip was hilarious. It was the 2013, I think, awards.
Was it that long ago?
It's been a while. Maybe it wasn't that far back, but he referenced, her boyfriend, Sunoco Rookie of the Year, Ricky Stenhouse. He's been in the series for a hot minute. And but he made a joke about Danica Patrick being surprised she was up front because she wasn't used to that. And just like the most stone cold face, everybody in the place is falling out. They show Kevin Harvick. He's like spitting his beer out and just laughing so hard. And and Ricky's face is just like, oh God, I'm going to hear about this later.
And I've got to go home for that.
I mean, lucky him, but oh well.
JDK, hey fellas, currently flying to Toronto, so might get cut off. Hey man, listen, thanks for
look at that. We bring up JDK checks in. What a surprise!
Yeah, right.
One of his top 3 favorite drivers. But hey, NASCAR Gambling Podcast on a plane. There you go. Take your headphones out. Let everyone else hear the show.
Yes,
Tell
please.
them all we said hello.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit through the win totals from last season. And like I said, Cody, we don't have a transcript of our episode, but you do basically you kept the notes in your article for the most part. So where do we want to start? I will say this. Let me give you a recap of last season as far as wins are concerned. 15 drivers won a race last season. Out of that, the winner or the person with the most wins was William Byron, who had 6 wins on the season. And the person with the fewest wins, well, it's like a 5-way tie, but with 1 win apiece between SVG. Even Logano got in there. McDowell, Danica's boyfriend, and AJ Allmendinger all won races last season. And again, that 15 drivers is just about half the field on a regular basis, right? A little less obviously than half the field, but it just seems like everybody got in on the action, but there were some people that we kind of expected to be in there that weren't. We'll obviously cover those as well, but as far as people winning races, did it feel last season that anybody could win a race? Because like I said, I know Byron won 6, but it still kind of felt like anybody could win a race last season.
Yeah, I mean, we're 2 for 2 with the next gen car, right? Where we come into seasons and there's a lot of different winners. It felt like, and it's crazy because Kyle Larson was a favorite a lot of weeks and a very heavy favorite, but he didn't get that many wins, and really it was never a sure thing. There was never a track, even on the road courses. In the old car, you go to the road courses and it was like, okay, it's gonna be Elliott, Larson, Truex. Like, those are the only 3 guys that have a shot. This year, last year we see Chastain get a win and Suarez get a win, and Reddick kind of took over as the road course guy. But then this season, you end up with Michael McDowell dominating a road course race. And did Reddick even win any of the road? He won the first one right at Coda, but he didn't win any of the other ones. And Elliott again didn't win road courses. And Allmendinger, you think maybe is going to win a bunch, and he doesn't win till the last one. And then SVG comes in there randomly and wins one, of course. But different scenario, obviously. But yeah, it was very, again, the parity in NASCAR. This next generation, this Generation 7 car has really brought it. And again, we're going to continue to kind of see the scales tip a little bit, right? And the Hendricks and the JGRs, they've got the money, they've got the resources. It's going to continue to go in their favor a little more and more, I think, as we go along. But there's really good teams, and there's teams that are making big plays, and just more teams in general. You look at it, and you've still got your powerhouses, and Penske was a little bit off, but they still won the championship in both seasons. And you've got young up-and-coming teams in Trackhouse. It's been a little bit rocky, but Chastain just won at Phoenix, the most recent race, right? And had a good, strong season, and they're going to add another driver via Spire, and Roush, RFK has taken another big step forward, and Front Row's kind of taking some small steps, and Spires are taking small steps, and the Live Fast car is out of the charter system now. That was your kind of worst car, and then even the other 2 bad cars in the Rick Ware, one of those is going to have Justin Haley, and they're upping their relationship with RFK. And so throughout the field, it just keeps getting more and more parity, and there seems to be more and more guys who can win. And really, Kyle Larson is going to be that one guy that it's not going to surprise you if he just jumps out and wins 10 races on any given year. But other than that, like, there's a bunch of guys that could be the guy that wins the most races, and it's William Byron this past season, which probably not who you would have picked going into the season, right? And I think his win total was 2.5. Yeah.
I think that might have been wrong, because I feel like, I was looking at some old, I don't know what last year's was, okay. But yeah.
But anyways, either way, it wasn't anywhere close to 6. So there is that. But yeah, the parity, it's been great. It's been wonderful, obviously. So love it. And I think that it's going to continue going forward. And yeah, I just don't see it changing because of the great drivers we have in the sports, and of all of the good teams, and how everybody's really just making that push right now.
And what I love too is that the ebb and the flow of the whole season. And that's what's great about a season that goes from February to November. There's a lot of weeks in there to where, you again, even with William Byron winning 6 races, it wasn't as if he was like winning every single race every single week, because it started off, it was like Bowman was up there, and then Byron was up there, and then it sort of
I saw somebody's season grade yesterday for Kyle Busch was like a C+. I'm like, did you only watch the last third of the season? Like, the guy was the favorite to win the championship. He won 3 races early in the season on a brand new team. Like, I get that it didn't end great, but a C+, like, he won more races than he won at Gibbs in a few years. Like, what? Did you forget about the entire first portion of this? I know it's a long season. I know that was a long time ago, but maybe make sure you weigh the whole season into it, right?
I'd still at least give him a solid B. I mean, 17 top 10s in a 36 race season where, he was falling off.
They did trail off at the end, and the point, was his worst points finish in, like 10 years or something. Yeah, whatever. But as an overall whole of the season, it wasn't that bad. So that was just shocking to me. But it does go to show you that sometimes people just forget, because it is such a long season of how good drivers were earlier on in the season and whatnot.
It takes a lot of concentration to keep all the way through from February to November, as we definitely know. But yeah, so that's kind of a look back at the season. We'll start taking a look and dig into the point totals in just a second. But before we do, I want to tell you about Underdog Fantasy. I'm anxious to tell you about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has a way to play alongside your favorite fantasy players all season long. You get NFL, NBA, NHL, college basketball, college football. Simply pick higher or lower on your favorite players' fantasy stats and cash in. I'm going to roll with that Dak Prescott interception there as well. Take that higher than a half an interception on Underdog and add that into some of those other Underdog picks that you got for the rest of that. So watch along, make your picks, maybe make a little cash over on Underdog's mobile app or website, underdogfantasy.com. And when you sign up with the promo code SGPN, Underdog is going to double that first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code SGPN. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. You can research every NFL, NBA, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bets revolutionary parlay optimizer tool. You're going to get hit rates broken down by leg as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark. Join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, so we talked about the fact that William Byron was the win leader with 6, obviously smashing any over that would have even been set. But who was the Kyle Larson four wins on the season? I have to think that was under, right? I believe that was under what his win total was set for.
Yeah, that's not one that we have, Doc. 3.5 he was at.
Oh, he was at 3.5.
Yeah, so had him at 3.5. It was minus 140 to the over, so it's definitely juiced up. But did pick the over. So yeah. Disappointing season in 2021. I put in quotation marks in the minds of many after his masterful 2021 season. However, so let's see. His 2022 season consisted of 3 wins, 13 top 5s, 19 top 10s. One of the best race car drivers on the planet. Blah blah blah. And so yeah, he's co-favorite to win the championship, coming in at plus 600. Could win each and every week, except for at super speedways. I didn't put that in there. I guess I should have. Larson, despite being at 3.5, is one of the best drivers you can feel comfortable laying your bet on. Was what I wrote about him there. So, yeah, they got that just about right. They said set it at 3.5. He wins 4. It was juiced up a decent bit towards the over. So sometimes the books know what they're doing, I suppose.
Hey, sometimes we tell that the matchups are always right there next to each other, right? When I guess they got their win totals right as well. They probably threw an extra win at him just so all the over bettors could be happy. They were like, damn it, we need one more. Kyle, go out and win this last race. Okay.
There you go. I guess I'll win one more.
So, but for Kyle Larson, this season, this coming 2024 season, if I were to set the win totals, I think I would set it right there as well. I feel like 3.5 is still a good number. He hasn't had that same sort of grip on the rest of the field as he did a couple of seasons ago. So for me,
I feel like they gotta set it higher.
But do you though? Like how high? How high is it? How high?
I think you're probably up it to 4.5, right? So he won 3 the first season of the new car. He won 4 the second season. He still is Kyle Larson, and how many races did he not win this season when he was the best car, or he should have? I mean, two examples pop into mind right away, right? Pocono and Kansas, where Denny Hamlin gets him late and wins both those races, even though he was leading. Homestead, the end of the season there, he likely should have won that race. Way overcooked it coming into the pits and took a trip to the beach in the sand there. It's Kyle Larson. Like, that's the thing. I think that if you set it at 3.5, it's got to be juiced up even more than this, or you're going to get a lot of action on the over. And even at 4.5, how do you bet an under on Kyle Larson to win? I mean, sure, you take his over on DNFs too, because it's wreckers or checkers for him, but he has the ability to do that, and it's okay for him to do that, right? Because he's the guy that can go out there and push the limits, and when you get 110%, that 100% is bigger than anybody else's, and sometimes that 10% pushes it over the edge into the sand barrels, right? But I feel like 4.5 is probably where he's going to be set at this season, and That to me, that would be a harder number to bet on. 3.5, I think you smash the over, even no matter what the juice is. Again, whatever you're comfortable laying for it sitting around the entire season. But 4.5, I would have a little more pause, I think, taking the over, because I feel like 4 he's probably getting to. Does he get that 5th one? He should, right? He's talented enough, and he's going to have the opportunities to win that many. But does he get it done? I still probably would go over.
So Phoenix, 3rd place. Bristol, 2nd place. He had 15 top 5s overall on the season, right? Loudon, he had a 3rd place there. Chicago, he finished 4th, somewhere close to the front. You talked about Kansas, where he finished 2nd as well. Las Vegas, he finished 2nd. So a lot of opportunities there for him to be the winner of the race, finishing that. And you know, like you said, at Phoenix, led 201 laps, finished 4th from the pole. So I could definitely see him picking up a 5th win on the season. I just feel like, yeah, you're right. 4.5 might be where but if I was the books, maybe I would set it at 5.5. Maybe you do kind of keep it a little more evenly spaced there on the how much juice you're doling out, and see if you can get a 6th win even.
Yeah, I mean, 5.5. I definitely don't think I'd be able to bet the over. Excuse me, but yeah, again, I guess depends what you're juicing each side. I don't know that I would be comfortable betting the under either. So I guess if you don't want to take very much action, maybe that's more the route you go.
Yeah. No, but I think I'm with you. I'll be anxious to see. We'll have to write that down. Somebody write down we need a scribe on this show. So if you're,
we need somebody to keep track of things for us, because we're not very good at that.
Well, so when I listened to the fantasy football podcast on ESPN, they used to have somebody that would actually go through and keep track of all of the board bets that they would make, and they made a website out of it. So if you're so inclined, we would love for you to keep track of all of this for us, because we just talk. We don't want to keep track. We're not scribes. We don't keep track of it all. So all right, let's move on. Who's the next name on that list of yours?
Yeah, so Kevin Harvick. Let's play a little game. What do you think his over under was set at, Rod?
I'm gonna say, well, if Kyle Larson's was set at 3.5, then I've got to think that Kevin Harvick's was set at 2.5.
He was at 1.5. And the over was actually juiced up at plus 120. The under was what I guess I don't know which way you're paying. We'll do either way. The under minus 150. Very juiced in that direction. So let's see. He
did not win a race last season.
At this time, he did not win a race. So spoiler alert. But yeah, so January 11th is when I wrote this article. So coming up to the season, we didn't even know at this point that it would be his final season. So yeah, 2023 brings a lot of speculation. Will this be the final season for this driver? Fox Sports is seemingly keeping a seat waiting for him. Oh wow, I predicted that. That's crazy. Not really, but from 2010 to 2020, Harvick had won at least one race per season, including 9 wins in 2020. While 2021 was winless, he rose back to victory lane twice in 2022. The odds are juiced on the under, but I did pick the over. And the fact that you're getting plus money to me was an easy over. I said, obviously wrong, but felt like there was some opportunities. I mean, Talladega, he's just the nose away from winning. Was there? I feel like there was another race where he had a Phoenix in the spring. That's what it was, right? Where the place he's dominated, like he was running away with it. 20 laps to go or so. Maybe it was less than 20 laps. Late caution flag. He doesn't win the race. You know, after that caution flag happens, I think that Byron ended up winning it. Could have easily had a couple of wins. Getting a win in his final season, like everybody thought that was going to be a free square, right? And then just to get one more, you're getting a plus money. Was on the wrong side of this one, but definitely was pulling for him to win it. It felt like the closer is going to close out with a win, right? And it really, looking back, it really sucks that he didn't. Just as, you know, as a fan of this and a guy that'd been around, I mean, 2001, he literally got in the car the next week for Dale Earnhardt after he passed away. And that's how long he's been in the sport. And to go out with no wins, just heartbreaking for the 4 car of that team. But yeah, unfortunately missed on this one. Books had it right with the under being juiced to minus 150. I mean, and obviously, you know, didn't even get too close, or minus 150. Didn't even really get that close to this one.
Yeah, and really, he closed on a very, very sour note. 6 top 5s, only 14 top 10s. His average finish 15.5 or 14.7 rather. His average start 15.5. Just a miserable statistic.
That was a heavy flag to carry over there at SHR this year, Rod.
Yeah,
You got the Mahindra tractor in the 14 car there, and which I don't know if you saw. Mahindra re-signed for multiple years to be the thing. I saw their official press release was we were so impressed with how well SHR made the 14 car look like a Mahindra tractor on the track at points this season, and so we wanted to re-sign for more seasons. So shout out to SHR for taking that sponsorship literally. But yeah, SHR just down right now, and unfortunately, I think that hurt the closer in his final season here.
They went above and beyond that one. So look, I know that there's speculation about Gragson being in the 10 car. Still a little bit of swirling.
Speculation.
Yeah, I know.
That's like Kevin Harvick. Fox, as I write here, Fox seemingly keeping a seat warm for him. I'm pretty sure that SHR is seemingly keeping a seat warm for Noah Gragson.
Exactly. So I'm thinking that all of the, and I'm going to just go throw all SHR under a blanket. You got to think that it's probably, well, maybe Chase Briscoe comes in at 1.5.
Josh Berry's going to be like 3.5 wins, right? If you compare
30.
everything else, his odds are set at. Jesus.
30 wins for Josh Berry. It's going to be 30.5. That's what they're going to set that at.
He's the favorite to win the Daytona 500 for some reason. I don't know.
So that's what I'm saying. So maybe Berry's is at 1.5 as well. But I don't think that
hammer the under.
I don't think any of these guys really, other than maybe.
Yeah.
Briscoe,
so I think I want to say, let's see. I don't have Briscoe. I don't think Briscoe is on here. No,
I don't think he was even out when we were going over.
I remember. God, I should have went back and listened to that episode, but I remember being heavy on his under because everybody was giving me shit. Oh, he's gonna be so good this season, and he was not so good this season. But yeah, I would guess you probably put Briscoe at 1/2 probably. And again, I think I'm taking the over because you got those Phoenix, the Martinsvilles. He can win those races. He can win super speedways. But Berry, I mean,
in a dirt race, if there ever was one.
Oh yeah, exactly. If you get odds on Berry, just take the under because rookies don't win a lot of races. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but they just don't. And Berry is not going to. And everything his odds have come out on is just way overvalued. I'm going to be taking a lot of Berry unders, I think, this year. Gragson, he didn't look good in the 42 car, so he's probably not going to look that much better in the 10 car. You hope he does, but I doubt you'll even see odds on him for a win total. And Priest, you probably won't see odds either, but I guess a half race probably is appropriate for all of them. I have a feeling a Berry would be set at like 1.5, which great. Then you get in case he accidentally wins one, but
yeah, you get the insurance that he doesn't get a second.
Please give us that option because I would love that.
All right. So the next name on your list is
Kyle Busch. Rod, what do you think his was set at?
His had to have been set somewhere around 2.5.
1.5 for him as well.
Yeah,
also, this is same mirror image of Kevin Harvick here. Over 120, under -150. If you remember, we were very heavy on Kyle Busch during last offseason. Gave him out 20-1 to win the championship, which in about March and April looked like a genius play. Not so much at the end of the season. But yeah, I mean,
C+, Cody. He's a C+.
C+ season from Kyle Busch, apparently. But yeah, over 1.5, plus 120. Obviously, this city got 3 wins, I believe. So yeah, just a great season from him. Trying to just skim through everything here. He was tied for 9th place on the all-time series list heading into the season at 60 wins. Was tied with Kevin Harvick. Obviously, Kevin's number remained there. Kyle is up to 63 now. But yeah, it just he had only gotten 1 win the previous season at Gibbs, and that was at the dirt race where he shouldn't have won, right? It was Briscoe and Reddick got together in the final corner. Busch snuck through, snagged the win. But he just seemed like he was going to be on the revenge tour. Revenge tour got canceled early, but it did cash for this at least. So he did hit the over 1.5.
So I would say that next season maybe I bump it up to 2.5. I don't see him.
But if the recency bias is in there and you're saying he had a C+ season, maybe they keep it at 1.5.
You think though?
that's what I'm going to be so interested to see when the books do come out with these odds is, I mean, he had a great start to the season. He won all these races, but it really tailed off. So are they going to look more? Are they just going to look at, okay, he won 3 races. Let's set it at 2.5. Let's set it at 3.5. Or are they going to say, yeah, he won those, but he looked like shit at the end of the season, so maybe it'll tail off. I'll be very interested. If it's at 1.5, I'm going over again.
Oh, I definitely.
If it's at 2.5, I'm going to take a pause. I probably am still leaning towards the over, depending on what number we're getting at here. But yeah, I think 2.5 probably the appropriate number to set it at, because once it gets to a harder decision to make, that's where you probably have the appropriate line, right? Because 1.5, yeah, I take the over. 2.5, now I'm not really sure which way I want to go. Probably the over still, but you know, it's gonna be tough for a lot of people to get to 3 wins with so many different people have the opportunity to win races. So I think that 2.5 would probably be the appropriate number to set him at for this coming season. And I still would probably lean towards the over with Kyle Busch, because I think it's Kyle Busch, man. They're going to keep figuring it out. And Randall Burnett is good. We know that. I think they're going to be fine.
I think he wins at least 3 this season. I think he repeats 3 wins. That's easy. I feel like that's a good benchmark for him. So 2.5 would be a good one. I, like you, would take the over on that one. 3.5, depending on what the over is, I may start to think about it, because look, he could have not fallen off. It is a tough number, but he could have not fallen off.
And I mean, road courses he was very good at. He finished second place in multiple road courses. Those could easily turn into wins. He won at a super speedway. We've seen him win other places. Obviously, he's won about everywhere at this point, but he's good at all types of tracks. That helps when you're trying to get to an over total. So, I will be interested to see. But I think the 2.5 would be appropriate. But yeah, we'll see. 3.5. Ooh, that'd be a real tough one.
It would be, but I mean, you got to figure he had a 3rd place finish. He finished off a couple of good races with Charlotte, the road course, the Roval, and Vegas, 2 3rd place finishes there. 3rd at Richmond. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. It'd be a tough decision. That's for sure.
Man, just like if you, it's, where guys got so many catches, through the first 3 games of the season, you're like, oh, he's on pace to catch 500 passes this year. Like Kyle Busch was on pace to win like 10 races, right? And then he didn't. So
all right, who's next on your list?
Yeah, next up, Mr. Dennis Hamlin. Where would you have pegged him at, Rod?
I think that he was at 3.5.
You're giving the books a little more credit than.
Was it 2.5?
It was 2.5.
Yeah, I
also,
because I was thinking in my head 2.5, and I bumped it up 1.
Also, juice to the over plus 130. The under was minus 160. 3 wins. Is that what he ended up with?
Yeah, 3 wins.
3 wins. So, let's see. I wrote he's arguably the best driver in NASCAR history who have not won a championship yet. Anyways. I wrote that, which I'll just copy and paste that for this year's article. He was 16th on the all-time wins list coming into the season. 1 win behind 3-time champion Tony Stewart. He had 2 wins in 2022, not including Pocono, where he took the checkered flag but became the first driver to be disqualified in NASCAR's modern era. He had won 2 races in 2021, 7 times in 2020, and 6 times in 2019. So kind of has been trending downward a little bit as he gets a little older here and with the new car, obviously. But yeah, 1.5 over was also the pick, plus 130. So did hit this one as well. And I think, man, he had 3 wins, but again, another driver that it seemed like had a lot more opportunities to win races, a lot of things that went wrong. That's what's going to be so interesting about this coming season was the parity more there because guys choked away these chances? Because if you look, like Kyle Larson had a chance to win a lot more races. Denny Hamlin had a chance to win a lot more races. Tyler Reddick had a chance to win a lot more races. Like, these are guys that had Kevin Harvick even had a chance to win a couple. Like, they had races almost won and then kind of blew them at the end. And I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But I mean, with Denny Hamlin, he ends up with 3. But you look back to Kansas in the fall, he should have won that race. But late caution, you get it overtime. Tyler Reddick, thank God, because we had to bet on him. Snuck around him and ended up winning that race. So that's another one that he could have had. 2 of those wins, though, came last lap or near the end passes, right? Kansas and Pocono, like we talked about with Kyle Larson, where he got him at Kansas on the last lap. And Pocono, I think, was not the last lap, but it was near the very end there where he kind of ran him out of room and into the wall, and that was a whole ordeal there. But so, yeah, he got to 3 wins, but 2 of them came just at the very end. So, I don't know where would you set the Hamlin odds going into this season? I mean, he's still one of the better drivers in the series, right? But he's starting to teeter with father time there and get a little up there. He's had this big surgery. Might miss the Clash. Is he going to start off a little slow, not having any simulator time? Does he need simulator time? He's been racing cars for a long time, but all these young kids running around him for the old man. Who knows?
Hey, this is a Cars 3 series where Lightning McQueen is in the simulator and everybody else is doing way better than him and he's crashing into stuff. That's Denny right now. No, I think I'd leave it at 2.5. I don't feel like there's a 4 wins in there for him. Look overall in the season, right? He did have those 3 wins, 14 top 5s, 19 top 10s, average finish of 12.4. I mean, like you said, Kansas in the fall, he was second at Watkins Glen after he had started on the pole, right? He started on the pole in Sonoma as well. Ended up finishing 36th in that one.
The pole king on the road courses.
Yeah, but again, just not really translating it into, and you can say, yes, he was close, but you can also say, but he didn't do it, right? And that's really what it all ends up being, right? Sure, he was close, but he didn't finish. He didn't get what he needed to get that win. So I think that pretty much proves that whatever is in the tank is not enough to get him all the way there anymore. And again, maybe the shoulder injury keeps him out of the Clash, yes, but maybe it nags through the rest of the season. Look, we're getting older, my friends. I know Denny's struggle because I sit in a car. I sit in a car for 2 hours. I think we are the same age. And my back is killing me. I could only imagine. And this has been 2-3 days now where my back has not felt well. I can only imagine him for 500 miles every single weekend trying to get in and doing that. So I'm just saying, Father Time is undefeated.
So you're keeping it at 2.5?
Yeah, I'm keeping it at 2.5.
I think that's probably appropriate. I think I'm still going to the over. It's Denny Hamlin. He's good. Had some blown opportunities. He made up some opportunities as well. So could go either way, but he's always going to have himself in the mix. Maybe not for the championship. He likes to choke those away, but he is going to get in the race wins at least. And he's a guy that that number matters to Denny Hamlin. I really don't think he cares about winning a championship. He's been vocal about that. Now, whether that's because he doesn't have one, and maybe if he wins one, it changes the tune, right? Because sometimes when you get something like that, it's like, oh, yeah, this is what I wanted all along. But he's got the Daytona 500 wins, but he's that win list. And I think 60 is the one he's trying to get to next. I think I don't remember. I would have to look up where he's at on the win list total right now. But he's got numbers circled of wins. And wins is what matters to him more than anything, at least from what he says. So I think he's still going to be trying to get plenty of wins. So I think I would take the over 2.5 again.
Yeah, I would juice it a little bit less, though. I would probably not make it so big of a plus number on the other side of that 2.5. I would probably keep it closer to the vest, maybe plus 120, maybe 110. But yeah, I wouldn't give too much reward for those of you taking the over, but I would still probably take the over like you. All right, who do we got left to talk about?
Yeah, next up for me, Mr. Tyrone Gibbs. You know how much I love this kid, Rod. What was his win total set at coming into the season?
A half a win.
His was at 1.5. He went the other direction.
See, this is I took
1.5, which was just the most ridiculous number.
It really
the over was plus 160. The under was minus 190. So juiced appropriately for sure. But 1.5 just had no chance of hitting, Rod. I love him. You know how much I love him. Give me 1.5 this year. I'll take the over. But the biggest bet I made in the offseason was Ty Gibbs under 1.5 wins because rookies just don't win races. Austin Cindric did it. He got one. He won the Daytona 500. It's such an outlier. Rookies these days don't win races. I wrote here 20 years old coming into the season. He's done nothing but win behind the wheel. 67 starts in the ARCA series, won 27 times. First career start in the Xfinity Series in 21. He won that day. 51 Xfinity starts going into last season. He had 11 wins. Capped it off by winning the Xfinity Series championship. Won 7 races in Xfinity in 2022. He had the time since July. Kurt Busch was injured. He stepped in. Ran the final third of the season. He's coming into Kyle Busch's ride, basically, right? They just changed the 18 to the 54. but they just don't win. I had wrote drivers like Chase Briscoe, Cole Custer had similar situations. I struggle seeing Gibbs getting to 1 win in 2023. Even if he does, 2 wins are hard for me to grasp. My favorite bet next to Kyle Busch is Ty Gibbs on the under. Again, juiced up to minus 190, so it was juiced appropriately, but this one just really didn't. If anybody was going to do it for rookies, it probably would have been Ty Gibbs just because he's broken all the other barriers, but the Cup Series is a different thing. Now, where do you think his win total is coming into this season, Rod? Because this is a completely different story talking about this next season for him.
And yet, here's the thing. I don't know that the books are going to be as high on Ty Gibbs as we are.
They sleep. What's his championship
odds? I forgot to.
I'm going to pull it up because.
Yeah. But so I'll talk about it while you look up the odds. And that I don't know that there's a lot of folks, unless the folks that are setting these odds are avid NASCAR fans, because honestly, I don't think the rest of the world is caught up to the Ty Gibbs hype yet. So I feel like you're a little bit on the vanguard of him being a multiple win driver next season, because I think a lot of people look at it and go, yeah, he only had 4 top 5s last year. He had 10 top 10s, right? His average finish was 18.4. Finished the season pretty miserably. 3 races of worse than 18th place or worse, right? He did have a 7th place finish at Homestead, but it was just a series of 30th place finishes for Ty Gibbs at the end of the season. So they're going to look at that a lot like they're going to look at what Kyle Busch did to end the season as well and say, this guy's probably only going to be a win and a half, maybe even just a half a win, depending on what they're looking at.
Oh, please give me a half a win, Rod. But I think so. He's 15th in the championship odds as far as he's the 15th driver listed. He's at 35-1. He's right between Bubba Wallace is just ahead of him. Alex Bowman just behind him. So some big name drivers, Josh Berry somehow falls in behind him with as much love as he's getting for whatever reason. But I think that 1.5 would be the appropriate place to set him at this season. If it's a half a win, holy shit, I'll be putting a big bet on that. Even at 1.5, I'm taking the over. Like, this is Ty Gibbs' breakout season. Like, we know how talented he is. We've seen it every level. He comes through and he does all this good. And we've even seen it. Like, you got that half or, that third of a season where he's filling in for Kurt Busch. He got that extra time to get comfortable in these cars, to figure it out, to learn the guys around him. You saw the improvements this season. He never really was probably going to win a race as far as where he was running in a lot of them. We had a couple times where we bet on him because it was worth it at the number, and he had some really great runs, but just wasn't quite to that next level. But he's going to bust right through the door this season. He's going to be at that next level, and I think that we're going to be talking about him just like we talk about his teammates, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex. It's going to be, whoa, the 4-team Gibbs powerhouse is back. And if one of them is not, I think it's Martin Truex of all of them, because I think the other 3 are going to be fine. But I expect a huge season from Ty Gibbs. I think 1.5 is probably still the appropriate place to set him at. Like you said, what's everyone's temperature on him is an interesting question. I mean, I've heard Gluck and Bianchi talk about how they're big on him next year. Bob Pockris had him as like his breakout guy for next year. So a lot of the big names in the industry seem to feel the same way I do, where I think he's really going to bust through. But does everyone feel that way? Is it going to surprise some people? I don't know. But yeah, give me the way smashed over if it's at a half. Give me the over if it's at 1.5. If we get to 2.5, then I'm probably going to stay away from it. But I think 1.5 would probably be the appropriate place to set it at again. It was juiced up last year, plus 160 on the over, which was appropriate for last season. I'd love to get that number again, just because he didn't win any races this season. That's what it's almost a blessing in disguise that he didn't win one late in the season, because if he had, then they're going to be like, okay, this needs to be 2.5 or something like that. But where he got close, but he didn't get there. Now, if he busts through, it might be your opportunity to jump on it before. Again, this could be one of those numbers that you never see at this low again for the rest of his career.
Well, I will say this. It's difficult to get to 3 wins in the season for folks. 5 drivers won 3 races. Only 2 won more than 3. So, and I feel like that might be the same sort of situation we're running into next season, where you'll get a handful of drivers that win 2 to 3 races and really only a couple that break that mark at all. I mean, Kyle Larson and William Byron were the 2 that finished with more than 3 wins. Everybody else, from Kyle Busch on down to even Tyler Reddick, only had 2 to 3 wins on the year, and then of course sprinkled out the rest of it. So I think that's going to be the same type of situation. So for Ty Gibbs to get to 3, I think would be very difficult. I think 2 is doable in this situation, but 3 may be asking a bit much out of a second-year driver. So I'll give you the 1.5. Like you said, at 2.5, I'll start to get a little squeamish. So,
I think that goes for probably most drivers other than like the elite top group, just because 3 is a big number, and Denny Hamlin didn't get there, Chase Elliott didn't get there, you didn't see Alex Bowman win any races. Like there's a lot of guys that still are going to take some of those races off the table. SVG is going to be running all the road courses, so there goes 6 wins. If you listen to some people, just kidding, that's not going to happen. But I find it hilarious anyways. One more, Rod. Should we hit the last one from the article here?
Yeah, absolutely.
The 2023 NASCAR Cup Series champion, Ryan Blaney. I will again let you guess where he was set at.
So I'm thinking in my head 2.5. So I'm going to drop that down to 1.5.
You figured out the game, and you are correct. Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. He was set at 1.5. The over super juiced up -165. Under was +135. I believe he ended up with 2 wins on the season.
3 wins on the season.
He did 3. Wow. He won at Talladega. Where else did he win at?
He won
at Coke 600.
Coke 600.
Oh, hold on.
Then, of course,
give me a sec. Oh, Phoenix. No, he didn't win at Phoenix.
Oh, no, he didn't win at Martinsville.
Oh, yeah.
To get into
Phoenix. There you go. So let's see. I did take the over on this one as well, juiced up -165, but he's feet away from winning the 2022 Daytona 500. If you remember that, the late block from rookie teammate Austin Cindric was the only thing that could stop him. He had 300. Reading and talking, not a very good skill for me.
It's the off season. No one will.
Nobody's listening anyways. It's fine. He led 636 laps and won the All-Star race, but did not win in any points-paying races in 2022. So that was kind of the thing with him, right? Was he didn't get to victory lane, and that had been after, I think it was 2021 where he had, he broke out in 2021, grabbing 3 wins, and it was like, okay, going into 2022, and then it was like, he didn't win anything, like the All-Star race. That was it. It was kind of weird, but yeah, again, he had won most stage wins the previous season, led a lot of laps, had a lot of close calls. I said Blaney should easily get back on top this year. Little did I know he was going to be at the very top when it was all said and done. But yeah, I did like the over on this one as well at 1.5. Again, it was juiced up that direction, but easily hits it as he gets to 3. And I think, being the champion and getting to 3 wins, he's automatically at least set at 2.5 next season, right? 3.5, I think, would be a little bit too much for the books to go for, but I think 2.5 is probably where you set him at. And Rod, I love Ryan Blaney, but that past champion's curse, it's a real thing. The champion, the previous champion just doesn't get it done. Might be an under you have to look at.
I'm right there with you. I think 2.5 is where this number's set. I'm definitely taking the under on it. Joey Logano only picked up 1 win.
Yeah, and that's the most recent example of the champion's curse, right? And there's all the questions around Ford, and we saw them struggle all season, and they've got this new body, yes, and maybe that helps them, but what if it doesn't? That's still a question. RFK, appeared to be the better Ford team throughout the season. I know Penske obviously wins the championship again, but that doesn't matter for the win total. And one of those wins was a super speedway win, so you can maybe toss that out, and it was by, inches, right? I mean, it ends up being a bigger margin because Harvick was disqualified technically, but it was close. I don't know. I think that I love Ryan Blaney, and seeing him win a championship is great, and I love it, but you're going to get that championship hangover because every time since Jimmy Johnson won that 5th in a row, it's been the championship hangover has hit every single. Kyle Larson wasn't immune to it. Chase Elliott wasn't immune to it. Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, like all of these guys have not been immune to it. It's like the Madden curse of these days, right? Look at Josh Allen this season. It gets all these guys. So, so I think that He's likely going to be set at 2.5, in which case I'll be leaning towards the under. If it's 3.5, I think definitely going to have to go with the underplay just because of the curse of being the reigning champion.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you on that one as well. I mean, it's tough for me to take him at 3 wins again. I really do think that it's a hard task. So yeah, give me the under on 2.5 for that's if it comes out at 2.5. If it's at 3.5, definitely under for that for sure. So let's go over a couple more drivers and then we'll call it good. Sorry if we didn't get to every driver on the list. So I do want to talk real quick about the 2 other Hendrick drivers that we didn't get a chance to talk about. Obviously, Alex Bowman was set at a 1.5, gets hurt. Chase Elliott was set at 3.5 wins, gets hurt. So kind of voided out. But next year,
which those and we should probably mention this before, but the way that the books had specified these was, it was the full season. The Clash doesn't count. The duels don't count. The All-Star race doesn't count. So only points paying events. And they did specify driver must start all 36 races or whatever, however it would. Driver must start all scheduled races or something. So in theory, hopefully if you had the over, at least if you had the under, it sucks. But those bets should have been voided out.
Yeah. But for next season, as we look ahead, Alex Bowman, would 1.5 be another line that you would look at? And would it be over or under for you?
1.5 is probably still the appropriate place to put him. Because I think if you put him at 1/2, it's too easy to bet the over. Because Alex Bowman should win about a race for where he is right now. In this past season, it's so tough because, again, the recency bias of the season didn't end that great, but it was after he broke his back. And prior to that, he was leading the points. He didn't have a win, but he was the points leader. Things were going well. He was likely going to find his way into victory lane at some point or get close. So I think 1/2 is just too low. So I think you've got to set it at 1.5. And he's such a wild card. He's probably one of those guys you just want to avoid betting on because he's much like Joey Logano most seasons. He's really hard to read. You don't know where he's just going to pop up randomly, dominate a race. You're going to be like, okay. And then he just kind of goes away again. And it's like, okay, whatever. It's the Alex Bowman way. And it's what he does. But he's so tough to bet on. But I think 1.5 is probably still the right place. It's a Hendrick car, right? And if you set it at 1/2, you're really just baiting people into betting the over, and it's a lot of liability on the books because he can just jump up and win a race. So I feel like 1.5 is probably the smart place for the books to go.
And if they do set it at 1.5, then they're going to have to juice the over enough to where. But here's the thing about Alex Bowman: he won at least one race in the 4 seasons prior to last season, but he only won 1 race in 3 of those. He won 4 in 2022, but only 1 race in the other 3 seasons.
2022?
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah. 4 races in 2021. I'm sorry. I'm reading the 2021. He won 4 races.
Oof, I just don't even remember that. 4 races in a single season?
4 races in a single season for Alex Bowman. But yeah, I mean, again, but he's only won 1 race outside of that in the other 3 seasons that he won a race in. So,
well, maybe 1/2 is where you set it, and you just weigh juice
the over or the under, rather.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, you'd put the negative juice on the over. I don't know. I'm interested to see what that might be.
Okay, so that was that, and then Tyler Reddick. I'll bring up Tyler Reddick real quick.
We got to do Elliott quick too, because
Chase Elliott 3.5.
3.5. You probably just got to keep it there because he can't. He's got the ability to win it. He's got the talent. He's got the car, the equipment. Again, I know he didn't really even get close when he came back, which surprised everyone. But he's still Chase Elliott. He gets that, the Dallas Cowboys, the New York Yankees bump of he's gonna get the action to the over. They've got to play the over safer. Maybe you drop it down to 2.5, but then you're probably looking at like a -190 on the over, right? It's tough, but the fan in me always just wants to take the over, which is exactly what the books want, right? So, would you bet the over or the under if it's at 3.5?
I would bet the over because
he can win anywhere.
Yeah, and his 2 teammates were the only 2 that were over 3.5.
It's a Hendrick car. It's still fast. Again, this season just didn't end the way they wanted to. Maybe the recency bias drops the books to 2.5, in which case you've definitely got to go over, I think. But he can win anywhere. He's good at super speedways, road courses. He hasn't won in the next gen car, but he's He's been the king of those prior to that. I mean, if he gets this next gen car figured out in the road course, he could rip 3 or 4 wins off just on road courses alone. So I think, yeah, you definitely do have to lean to the over. But yeah, I will be interested to see if they keep it at 3.5. I think that's the most likely scenario, is you just keep it at 3.5 and basically run it back from last year, because this year was kind of a wash anyways. Bets get canceled because he didn't run all the races. Hard to know what would have happened if he didn't have the broken leg and all that.
Yeah, I will say that the under was at plus 100, was one of the better numbers for that last season. So Tyler Reddick, real quick, a 1.5 in his
Over.
2023.
Over.
Yeah, definitely over. If
Call
that's
my
it.
shot. It's
But
Tyler
would
Reddick's
you? But
season.
would you do it at 2.5?
Yep, over. 3.5. 4. I take the. Can we ladder this? Can we?
Are you?
Can I ladder it to
company
4.5?
ladder? You want to
Tyler
come?
Reddick's winning at least 5 races in 2023. Write it down right now. Clip this. We'll play it back next year at this time. I am going to be chugging monsters this season in honor of Tyler Reddick, because I am all aboard the Tyler Reddick train.
All right, so we got Cody giving Tyler all 36 races next season. So over 35.
It's going to be. This
grab
is going to be the season you're going to look back and be like, Tyler Reddick was welcome to the party in 2024, where he broke out and won 8 races.
You just like the ties. You like Ty Gibbs and Tyler Reddick?
Ty Dillon, if he,
Dillon?
shit, he's gonna be back in the 16 car. Maybe he wins a super speedway. There you go.
Oh
throw some shekels on Ty Dillon in the Daytona 500.
Okay, I just want to bring up 2 more before we close the books on all of this. Martin Truex Jr., he won 3 races. Where would you want him to be this year? I'm thinking 1.5.
Yeah, I think that's the first number that came to mind. Again, the recency bias of a bad playoffs. He's getting older. I think 1.5 is still probably the appropriate place, but I'm going to want to bet the over on 1.5. If it's at 2.5, I'm probably going to want to bet the under. I think getting to 3 wins, it's going to be hard for him. He won a road course, which he probably isn't going to do very often. I think 1.5 is probably the best place for him. Maybe they'll bump him to 2.5 and just juice it appropriately. Hey, I don't know. I think Truex he's so close to just falling off that cliff, and we thought we saw it, and then he came back this season. Tell me who his crew chief is, and that'll change my answer.
Me. They called me yesterday and asked if I'd be
okay. Is your name James Small?
All I'm saying is I wanted to take the abuse from Martin Truex. That's
if your name's not James Small, give me the over. If it is, then.
All right, so that was.
If your name's James Small, then take me down under. If you know what I'm saying.
All right, couple more names. Ross Chastain won 2 races. Does he do it again? And would you bet him at 2.5?
It's hard to ever count Ross out. He's so talented. The equipment, it's borderline. They're hanging in there. It's gonna be a big season for Trackhouse. Like, are you going to continue to be a team that competes? I think we're really going to get that answer this season. What do you set? You're setting it at 2.5.
Well, I said, would you bet it at 2.5? I think 1.5 is probably the more appropriate.
I think 1.5 is appropriate, and I would go toward the over. If it's half, I would lean under again. 2 wins feels right for Ross. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he won 5 races all of a sudden, because I think he's got the talent, and if the equipment is there, I wouldn't bet him over 2.5 though, because I don't have that much trust in it. Again, what somebody can do and what you're willing to bet on them, sometimes 2 different things. But yeah, I think 1.5 would be the appropriate number, and I'd probably lean over.
You would have to throw some serious red meat at me to want the over on 2.5.
Throw some watermelon at you, maybe.
You would have to throw all the watermelon you had, and it would have to be soaked in whatever spirit you want to soak.
I mean, he's coming off winning the last race. Like,
yeah, but that's a long off season to sit there and rest. So
yeah, I don't know. He can win super speedways. He can win road courses. Yeah.
Do you really want 2.5? Do you want 3?
No, I don't want 3. I want over 1.5.
I was like, come on, Cody. What do you want? All right, last one, because this guy won 3 races in a pretty surprising fashion. Do we see a repeat of Chris Buescher? 3 wins last season. Do you want? Okay, the question is, if we're talking about Kyle Busch being again at a 1.5 because of the recency bias of the end of his season, do the books overreact to Chris Buescher and make this number like a 2.5?
There's no way you can put Chris Buescher at 2.5 because I would personally bet so much money on the under. It was great what he did, and it was so unexpected, and it was just like they got hot and ripped off these wins, and it was different styles of tracks. Is that sustainable? Is Christopher Buescher a 3-win a season guy, Rod? Maybe, but it feels like much more of an anomaly to me. And RFK has really progressed, and I mean, I'd be much more willing to bet Brad to win 3 races than Chris.
I was going to ask you, would you?
And Brad hasn't won in 100 races. Like, it just if he does it 2 seasons in a row, then I'll eat crow and say I was wrong. But he just doesn't feel like the type of driver that's going to repeat that performance. And we're going to look back and be like, much like we did with Alex Bowman a few minutes ago. Whoa, do you remember that one season where he won 3 races? Because that's what same reaction we just had to Alex Bowman. Whoa. You remember when he won 4 races? I didn't even remember that happening. So I don't see it happening for Chris Buescher. I mean, you probably set him at 1.5 if you're going to give him out, which he's kind of one of those drivers they might not even offer anyways. But 1.5 is probably the appropriate number, and I'm still we'll see where the juice is, but probably leaning to the under because you can win anywhere, you can do it, but it's so hard to trust a guy like that, I think.
Yeah, and that's a tough one. Obviously, that was kind of everybody was scratching. I'm sure it was probably a half a win, if any, for Chris.
His mom didn't even predict he's going to win 3 races. I mean, if you would have told her before the season he's winning 3 races, she wouldn't have believed you either. So
his mom ripped up the ticket as soon as he won the first one. She was like, "Come on, man! I had you on the under half a win. This is
exactly.
It. I'm done with you, son. You're excommunicated from the family." All right, so listen, there's plenty of other drivers to go through. We're actually going to do a team win total one because we're going to recap that and then talk about where we think the teams are going to come out. So we'll talk about some of your other favorite drivers. We'll talk about those rest of the 2311 team, talk about the rest of the Gibbs team. We kind of covered 3 of the 4, but we'll talk about Christopher Bell. We'll talk about all those folks. We actually covered a lot more ground than I thought we were going to cover this episode. Yeah. So I'm happy to put a pin in it here.
Yeah, we got Xfinity and trucks too. I mean, they had win totals last season, so we can go back and review those. And obviously the landscape shifts a lot in those season to season. So a lot of different drivers and stuff, but you can look at the truck or the car and who the new driver is. What do you think they'll do with it? And all that. So there's just plenty of off-season content, plenty of stuff. We'll keep the train rolling. So just keep joining us. Go back, listen to that interview with Seth. That was a lot of fun. We got some more interviews we're getting lined up, so going to be a lot of fun to continue through the offseason. Rod, only 66 days till the Clash of the Coliseum. Darrell Waltrip, that big Kmart car. So beautiful.
I won't give you the history, you guys. You're not grateful enough for history on NASCAR. I don't care. So, all right. You got one?
You talk.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So we're coming back tomorrow. We're going to talk some more about different things. We're going to have somebody else on. We're going to bring somebody else in, just like we did with Seth. So make sure you stick with us tomorrow, and then the rest of the week we'll continue to do that. There it is, right there.
There it is. The Raisin Bran cereal box. The 66 Darrell Waltrip. The Route 66. Remember those jeans?
I do.
What's the Victory Tour 2000?
But is the cereal still in there?
No cereal. This one, no. From my grandma, a big. Although this box is, it's taped at the bottom. I was gonna say the box is still sealed at the top, so I don't know how they got the cereal out of there, but it expired in December of 2000. So that was a long time ago. But my grandma was a huge Darrell Waltrip fan always, so so this was part of her collection and it is now part of mine. But the Kmart Racing Ford Taurus, the good old days. But yeah, there you go. Check out the YouTube and. There's your Darrell Waltrip. It's got a whole celebrating a legend on the back.
Trying to see what I had on there, but I don't have any of that.
I've got actually this whole shelf right here. This half is Darrell Waltrip stuff because that was my grandma's favorite. This half is Terry Labonte stuff because it was my grandpa's. So I've got a bunch of Darrell Waltrip stuff. But anyways, I know certain people don't like history lessons on this episode or this show, so whatever.
So we'll just pander to the folks that love us to death.
We'll toss it at the end. They can turn it off if they don't want to hear it.
Exactly. All right. Well, again, we'll be back tomorrow. We've got another show lined up for tomorrow, and then of course next week we'll come back with some more as well. But in the meantime, Cody, as we tell everybody goodbye, let everyone know where they can continue the conversation with you.
Yep. Follow me on the X at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my work over there. Got some little defensive prize picks episode or article coming out. I think I'm doing one this week. I've not got confirmation, but for sure throughout the month of December, but I think this week as well. So check that out and all the other stuff. Got the Washington name change odds article out over on Sports Gambling Podcast as well. Check that out and find all the stuff over there. Check us out on YouTube. Again, doing most of these live now, so you can join us if you click the bell.
Yep. Click the bell. Let everybody or let you get. Hi, I'm Rod. I've just learned to talk today, and it's not going well. But yes, follow me on X at RJ Villagomez, where there's actually words that come out better than this. You can see all the stuff and me slumping in my chair. Just have some fun with us. That's all we ever ask. But yeah, follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on. Still got prop articles going on for Sportsbook Review. Some first touchdown stuff out there as well. And Thursday Night Football if you're watching this live. So, all right, folks, we'll see you tomorrow with more. And until then, let's go racing and let it ride. Yeah!